So welcome back to Remote Design Week. I think, are we day 3 today?
Yeah, day 3.
Yeah. So if you have been watching, you know the drill. I'm Nick Hall. I'm the founder of the Digital Tourism Think Tank. And to my right.
I'm Ramona, and I'm the DTTT's Programs Director.
And this week we have decided to create a live event every single day of the week, which is all about remote design. It's a new concept that we love. We didn't invent it, but we certainly have been embracing it. And it's an approach to doing things which we just think is so powerful in transforming how people work every day within any organization. But I think it's really key to transformation. So if you're watching on the website, you can just drop us a chat. We have a little chat button at the bottom. You'll see our teammate Lucy welcoming you to the page. And you can drop us any message or any comments, and she will pass that straight on to us. So if you have any questions about remote design, transformation, or how to work with digital in a more productive or innovative way, send them over to us because we would love to discuss that and answer those. Also, we're going to be showing you some examples in today's program about how we have been doing things. So today is a little bit different to the other 2 days. Up until today, we've been basically bringing together experts from our expert team and talking about how they see the industry challenges which have been sent to us and working through kind of ideating how we could possibly overcome them or where they're seeing priorities and things like that. Today we want to show you more specifically how we actually do that work and how we do remote design. And so we're going to introduce a few different concepts to you. I guess maybe before we jump into the topic of today's workshop, which is the hybrid workshop, I think what would maybe be good is to have a quick recap on what remote design is and how we are seeing it as really valuable to how we deliver services, but also how we work in a collaborative way with clients. So, Ramona, what's the basic kind of principle and concept to doing remote design properly?
Yeah, so I think remote design for us is really all about collaboration. So it's really about bringing different team members together and also then people externally. So it's really connecting, a couple of people meeting up and having sort of a workshop or having a meeting, physically in an office, and also tuning in, the right people from outside to really bring, a group of people together who can really ideate, discuss, share ideas, share thoughts. And the core of remote design thinking and the way that we implement our remote design method is really to make sure that we capture that process digitally, because that's really so important. So of course, there's different ways of doing it. I think everybody's really familiar with, sticky notes and just placing them on walls using maybe windows. There's also really smart, ways of putting paint on the wall so you can actually write with markers on that. But often it just stays in that room and it doesn't go outside, and you have to brief other offices. Maybe you want to have, a load of different people who are part of that process. So the way that we use remote design is really we bring people together, people that are connected remotely. First of all, we can see and hear them wherever we are, so from different places. And second of all, we're using a technology and we're using a platform called Mural, where we are developing really customized canvases that can really help teams work together in a very, very structured way, because collaboration is great, and you can easily see how digitized sticky notes can bring out a lot of ideas, but it's also important about guiding a team that those ideas can become a reality and they're really actionable, and that also you can use that, I guess, for internal reporting and to show to your management and say, so okay, we had the head office, maybe a couple of market offices, we brought in like 5 experts from outside, and this is the result of it. And it's so important to actually show sort of a productive outcome. So I guess in a nutshell, this is sort of how we have designed a process that we definitely see working. And I think it's fair to say that, we've been doing consulting for about 5 years now, and it's been a struggle sometimes just to make sure that, we bring the right people. Sometimes it can be quite expensive, so it's really about making sure that we have found a solution that works, you know, for clients, but also works for us because we can really be part of something, part of a journey, also be really, you know, communicating and engaging with different team members.
Effectively, I think when we start working on remote design, the first thing is we bring in designers, and we have this expert team that we've developed, 10 brilliant experts who have a huge range of skills and knowledge and backgrounds. So some are really amazing kind of tourism people, and others are real kind of practitioners with digital or creative skills. So the kind of convergence of both of those is what makes it really interesting. I think the other thing to think about is what we've done is we've turned those people, those experts, into designers. So I still refer to them as experts as opposed to designers, but they're also designers who are experts. And they're designers because in that space, in that environment, everybody's a designer. I actually remember you talking to me about creativity, and you were saying that actually everyone has creativity within them, that it's just they have to find where that is and how that is externalized. So I think, you know, in this case, we're actually finding the creativity within all the designers and giving them a way to channel that into their ideas.
And I think it is also really a lot more fun, I think, for a team to really be so closely involved in that process with our expert team as well. So, you know, in remote design, really everybody has a voice. So it's really, you know, very enabling that everybody can really chip in with ideas and thoughts. And also that, you know, it gives you a great way to visually communicate that. So I think, you know, beforehand we were always thinking about, you know, a workshop where you bring ideas and then you leave and that's it. And the team is meant to develop them further. Or, you know, let's develop an audit or a strategy. And it seems like very, you know, flat. And I mean, one of the services that Kate, actually one of our experts, developed is a video audit. So it's a great example. I mean, a video audit should be so visual. It should not just be on paper, but the way that she has designed the canvases is really to make all of the videos playable. So when she talks about best practices, you can play the videos, you can see images. You know, when we talking about content, we can sort of, you know, write on content and say, we like this. How can we link it with that? So it's really building those connections that are so important that everybody understands it. And it definitely excites us.
I find it really exciting. And I think because at the Digital Tourism Think Tank, we've always been talking about, you know, digital, and we try to put digital at the forefront of everything. Sometimes, you know, we see that people see digital as a barrier, and they quite rightly in a lot of cases say, well, actually there's nothing more creative than, you know, that kind of physical space and being able to do that. So I think we're really trying to prove that that's not necessarily has to be the case. Like digital, it's not just about, you know, digitizing things, but sometimes digital can actually help people to be more creative because it allows you to do things in a different way. So let's first of all talk about this kind of notion of a hybrid workshop, because that's what we're talking about on today's stream. A hybrid workshop, well, what can I say? So it is a convergence of the two, right? So it's actually bringing digital and the physical space together. And actually, this is something we've been doing more and more of, and we see a huge amount of value doing it. I guess in principle, a hybrid workshop allows you to have a workshop space taking place with all your participants having their ideas, writing them down, using sticky notes, writing them on the wall. And actually, it allows people, and as you can see now on the screen, this is just some of the work that we were doing this week during Remote Design Week. We were actually getting our experts to write down their thoughts on how destinations are transforming and changing and put them on the wall. And, you know, that process of getting people to share their ideas and not having to sort of be trained on digital tools is really, really powerful and important. And I think we often find that when we go into destinations, that's a big part of the exercise is creating the spaces in the room and inviting people to think about, you know, how they apply for them and put their ideas up.
I think it definitely makes sense. You know, when you have more than 15 people, you know, together in a room, then sometimes I think if you would mix sort of, you know, just having sort of one one conversation from within a room where there's already 15 people with like, you know, somebody externally, it seems sort of quite monotone. So it's great. And if, as you said, if you have sort of group activities where people, you know, work in little groups on a table, or where they get up and get involved and put sticky notes up that you can then digitize. I think when there's smaller groups, like 5 people, and, you know, you could just think, okay, let's just do it all like completely remotely. But I think the hybrid workshop as well is a great entry point, because, you know, let's face it, it's really something quite new, and not most people aren't used to that. So it's a great introduction to work a bit differently.
Yeah, and I think what's great then, we're talking about the hybrid workshop, but how that really comes together is where it's really exciting. And you know, we I guess first of all, it's good to say that I think a lot of the best agencies, consultants, they use this very physical environment to their advantage when it comes to workshops. But where we bring in the remote team is where it gets really exciting. So we actually use Mural, and we also use Post-it, and we actually combine the two. So we actually photograph all of the ideas on the wall. Now, why is this important? Because normally all of those ideas would get thrown in the trash can, in the bin.
They would stay in the room, exactly.
Or they would stay in the room until someone cleans it. So what we don't want is for that to happen. We want all those ideas to be gathered, and, you know, usually it's forming part of a bigger strategy. So we want all of those ideas to be captured, to be pulled in to that bigger strategic work that's taking place around it. And I think it's also important that people, when they contribute those ideas, that they realize their ideas are valuable, that they are being part of a bigger process, and they're not just sort of being, I guess, sort of almost patronized, that they're just there to sort of have fun and play with ideas, that those ideas are going on to something. So we then import those into our digital canvas, which is where our remote designers are working. And this is where it gets really exciting, because of the apps that we use, we actually capture every single sticky note as a individual image or file, if you like. We can then adapt, adjust, move, and place those wherever and however they see fit. So we could do, for example, a wall full of ideas, and we could digitize them, and then we could later on organize all those ideas. So it's a great way to take those kind of handwritten thoughts from maybe 20 or 30 people, and then send them to a team of 4 experts to organize and work with those ideas.
Yeah.
So there's so many possibilities there.
Yeah, because I think then when you then have the ideas on the canvas, what's sometimes missing, and this is then where the remote design team comes in, is maybe, you know, for specific challenges, you know, there might be solutions, and then it's great that you can then, you know, link specific post-it notes, you know, that participants, you know, were submitting and sticking on the wall, importing them into a canvas, and then an expert can actually say, you know, write a recommendation, or they can actually drop in screenshots or, you know, links to videos, pictures. So it also visualizes the whole thing a little bit better. And what's great, and also is then at the end of that process, it's also great to bring, I think, somebody, you know, in remotely,
Yeah.
which is what we like to do at the end of the day, where they just say, you know, oh, you know, I've seen all of your challenges or all of the ideas that you've developed, and I just wanted to give a quick recap of, you know, what was said in the room, and, you know, some ideas and some thoughts that the design team developed. And then it's great that the team actually gets some feedback, and they actually see, as you said, sort of, you know, their effort weren't you know, worthless. It's actually somebody then built on top of that with ideas,
Yeah.
and they can see, you know, what started out with like one sticky note could easily develop into an entire campaign, maybe, if that's what a team is working on, or it could be, you know, finding a new model on like working with partners, or, you know, how do you do storytelling, how do you reinvent your website.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's so many different use cases.
I think just that ability to bring ordinary everyday people into the idea process, and then bring that with experts and not being geographically bound, it's a really exciting thing. So we've got a case study which shows an example of how we do this. It's a great example. It's a recent visit to Kosovo that I made, and I worked with the industry there to understand what all their challenges were, and to get them to be fully interactive and part of the process. So The feedback was really positive. I say a lot more in the video, so I won't say too much, but when we come back after this case study, we will talk a little bit about some of the use cases and specifically some of the workshops and remote sessions that we've been doing and also that we have coming up, where it's a really great way to see how these this combination of hybrid and also people remotely, people there in person really come together. So take a look at this case study and then we'll be back to talk to you more about the different use cases that we have applied for this. Good morning, it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm just leaving Brussels and I'm heading to Kosovo today because I'm running a workshop with the tourism industry there. So in the workshop we always introduce who's going to lead it. And we always give a kind of visual overview of some of the activities we're doing. Here we're talking about business coaching. We're going to listen to their ideas, give them feedback on what they're doing, really give them expert advice. We also do some of that remotely, so it's not only face-to-face in person, but we also have our team back in the UK that's also working virtually to give them feedback on their website, their social, all the different things that they're tackling. What we often see with these workshops is people are working together, but they're not really working together. So we actually invite them to really think about how they can maybe work together more effectively. We tried to deliver something that's unlike any workshop people have normally taken part in. The whole aim is to be completely interactive. We try and use technology, things like tablets. We have a remote session and we break it up into lots of different parts. And the whole aim is to get people completely inspired, to make sure they don't feel like this is by any means some sort of classroom exercise, and that they can actually get excited about the ideas that they're developing. The whole point in promoting conscious leadership is to recognize that yes, we all face challenges, but it's also up to us to make a clear decision to tackle those challenges and not become defeated by those challenges. Alright, so we've just finished 2 days of workshopping here with the industry in Kosovo. I have to say, really impressed. What an incredible group. Really committed with all their ideas. Really putting everything into it. Not at all complaining that they're taking time out of their business. And really interested not only in doing something for their business, but also seeing how they can work as a destination as a whole to build something more. They recognize that one of the biggest challenges is actually getting people to understand more about what Kosovo has to offer and overcoming those perceptions. So I thought I would just maybe run you through what we've produced in the last couple of days. We have a wall here with all of their ideas when it comes to the perceptions. We have a separate wall here about strengths. We have a separate wall here with opportunities. And then the challenges. What we've done with this wall is then send that over to Ramona. So as soon as they've put their ideas on the wall, we begin work with our team, giving some kind of expert input to that while they carry on learning and they carry on thinking. Later in the workshop, we actually wanted them to think about how they would tap into different trends. So we developed a series of trend sheets where they actually look at, how they're going to think about some of the key things that everyone's talking about. So experience economy, we've got localhood, identity, authenticity, the social economy, and then obviously targeting, and then putting this together in an action plan where they can actually start thinking about what steps they need to take. Then we focused on product development, and we put people in different groups and they developed a whole series of product ideas. Later on in the workshop, they took these ideas into worksheets where they actually looked at the entire visitor cycle and thought about how they tap into people who are not even in the market to visit Kosovo. So over a couple of days, lots and lots of great ideas. We had around 15 or 20 participants who pretty much put everything into it. And one of the things that's just so refreshing about this is we've got a completely new tourism opportunity, new destination that's in its infancy, and it's really a blank slate for anybody to work with, and it's really appealing to the future traveller that's really looking for something different and something unique. Yeah, so I should probably brag a little bit that I also shot and edited that video. No, actually I didn't do the editing. I did shoot everything myself in that video, so I was quite proud of myself, a little one-man band trip to Kosovo,
Yeah.
and even the plane shot.
Yeah, I mean, it shows anything is possible if you just bring the right tech or if you just have the right method, right?
Yeah, and you put your mind to it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that was the hybrid. That was a good example of a hybrid workshop because, well, I was there in person, but I wasn't alone. I could never have delivered such a comprehensive workshop all on my own. So you were there remotely.
I was there remotely.
How did that work for you?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. It's interesting. I think what made it interesting was actually not being there, because then you have just a different perspective. And, you know, we, as part of that process, we also looked at, you know, the websites of the different participants and, you know, then being able to give that sort of outside perspective and ideate a little bit on the opportunities, I think was really, really interesting. I think probably what happened a little bit is, what you could see in the video a little bit is like a canvas fills really quickly with like a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of links. And I think probably the participants were quite surprised, maybe just, you know, how many ideas came out of that and just how many opportunities. But it's really positive, and especially I think when there is a group that, you know, they all work in tourism, they all work in travel, they're all excited about technology, but often, you know, technology can be really daunting. So it's a nice introduction, I think, to show them, you know, there's different ways in which you can work, in which you can collaborate, in which you can help each other out, and that's like a good introduction. And, you know, now building on top of that, it's much easier, I think, for anyone to, for example, continue a process where they, you know, tune in remotely all the time, and I think once you've given them that initial introduction, it's easier to go sort of further and build on top of that, because we know that in many organizations actually the problem is, yeah, you know, people work in digital, but that doesn't mean that people are happy to have something completely different and new. It's quite scary. Like, what are you asking people to do in a hybrid workshop? You know, can we live up to that? We don't want, you know, nobody wants to disappoint someone, you know, that flies in and comes and brings a lot of material. But as we can see, like, they were really open, and it was a lot of fun for them. And it was really interesting, I think, also for you to be there and to support that process, and for me to then sort of summarize, you know, from the distance on like what I've looked at and then what I've seen, and where, you know, we can then quite realistically also see these are your opportunities, this is what you need to do.
Now we use, when we work with Mural, we really look to use all the tools that will help us. So one of the things we use quite a lot is an iPad Pro, and as you can see, the iPad Pro really comes into handy during a remote session and also in person, because you can really just, that very tactile interface allows you to really move things around on the board and almost treat the iPad as a canvas that you can actually just move things around, but also being able to then illustrate or draw or highlight or put circles around things. So in that example you saw, we were just able to circle things. So we take a screenshot and we can just circle elements on that we think are really important to discuss or to look at. And I think that way of kind of bringing that, kind of human way of, you know, my bad handwriting, sometimes that's a great kind of addition to the content, because it actually, it just makes quite a big difference. It makes it more kind of human in a way.
Yeah, I think, you know, in schools now, lots of schools are now using, you know, iPads, and it's normal for kids now to start like learning how to write on an iPad and to digitize everything, and, you know, like using less paper. But the same should also go for, you know, an office environment. You know, if you were working in digital, then we need to find, you know, smart ways on how we can work a little bit differently, so we can learn, so we can collaborate, and also, you know, make that entire process a lot more fun. And I mean fun still in a productive way, not, you know, let's all like have fun and play around. I mean, Sojourn here in their office here, they've got an amazing space which is, you know, giving them the opportunity to ideate and to write things on walls, and that doesn't have to be expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the kind of use cases that we see, or that we have used, or that we're using with the experts. So maybe first to start off with the expert services that we've developed. they are to be delivered remotely. So we've got this great team of experts all in different locations, and they use canvases very much like the ones that you've seen on the examples we have so far. Yesterday we worked together with the experts, and we did a great remote session where everybody put their ideas together on an iPad about the future of the destination website, and that kind of collaborative process where we had 4 or 5 people connecting at the same time was really powerful to sort of enable everybody to effectively be in the same room, a digital room, and collaborate in real time with all sorts of ideas as they come together, sketching on that, drawing on that, adding notes, structuring their thoughts, moving things around. And everything you see here came together within sort of 30 to 45 minutes. So I think also a really, really short amount of time invested to get a really big result. I think this is one of the real advantages of remote design as opposed to working physically in a location. Somehow you lose hours and hours and hours discussing all sorts of other things around it. Whereas the remote session, and those things are valuable, I guess it's not to say that they're not valuable, but the remote session gives a kind of really, really specific focus where you have to answer the questions or solve the problems.
Yeah.
So we've used that in situations, for example, looking at data and opportunities of data. Maybe we could talk a bit about how we've done a kind of big data exploration and how we structured that into some sprints.
Yeah, so I mean that project was really to support a destination really, strategically. So they needed to really, tackle big data and data-driven marketing as, a huge topic. And that can be quite daunting, but they actually were quite open to the idea of actually just doing it remotely because they immediately saw sort of, okay, this is quite productive. And we designed a day, so a remote design day with them, focusing on that topic. And the idea is basically we had 3 2-hour sessions, and we chose 2 hours because while we all know it, like, once you've worked 2 hours in an office, you need a coffee break, you need just to get out of it, because after 2 hours you're just not productive anymore. And whoever is still productive, I almost can't believe it, because I'm definitely not. So the idea was really to break, to have 2 hours very focused on developing ideas on a canvas, and that similar maybe to the one that we've just seen. So really ideating a lot around it, so really having an open conversation, us supporting them remotely, putting down sticky notes, ideas, and a big part of being a designer or mural sort of leader, maybe as we can call them, is to guide someone really through that process. So it's about really asking the right questions, really being able to get this really focused, because 2 hours is not very long, but we definitely managed to get a lot out of it. So the idea is to really ideate, then also audit a little bit on like what is currently there, then to be able to put that in onto a different canvas in the next sort of 2-hour slot and really develop, okay, what are interesting processes and structures to really implement a more data-driven strategy into that. And the third canvas then really focused on, okay, from a strategic point of view, what are the needs, what do we need to do, what sort of tools and technologies, how should that look like? And then at the end of like one day where, in between the 2-hour sessions, they had time for emails, they could just, go out and have a breather. You then basically have the full thing from the audit to the ideas to then a concrete plan and a strategy on how you move forward. Of course, then there's still work because you still need to move that forward. But that alone gives you so much, because they could then put that forward internally and could say, okay, this is our starting point, and it's very visual, and it also enabled them to get that buy-in internally, because of course the director and the management, they want to see, how are you going to tackle this, and this is a great way to show, this is the starting point.
And I think one of the key things is that, one of the things that you've been working on both over the last year, but also with the experts, is developing more than 60 different templates. And so whenever we begin remote design work, we're not starting from zero, we're starting from already expert developed templates. So with this example, we had a great series of templates which are all about exploring the opportunities that data can bring for your organization. I think it's probably worth mentioning that experts have given great contribution to developing these services, but we also have these 60 templates available within the Launchpad subscription for the destination subscribers. And those subscribers can just download those templates in PDF format. They can also, it's an integration that we are busy implementing across all the templates. They can just click open in Mural, and they will be able to install those templates directly into their own Mural accounts. So I think this is definitely a kind of a huge step forwards for us. It's difficult to kind of say how exciting that is, that all the templates that we use are now available to all of our Launchpad subscribers.
Yeah.
And that's at no additional cost. That's something that they can just implement themselves. So we're effectively handing our toolkit to all of our subscribers because we know that'll be hugely valuable for them.
And it's really, I think, introducing them to this new kind of working. And, yes, we are, we've developed remote design methods that we're now using as part of delivering our services, and as you mentioned, the Launchpad. But let's face it, this is something that every organization will now, that's the next step. Everybody's talking about transformation and collaboration. This is where it starts. And, whenever we ask the industry, what is your biggest challenge? It's always collaboration. It's always that feeling that everybody's working in a silo. Nobody's maybe, talking to each other because they just feel like they can't because they're supposed to go through their to-do lists. And this is really enabling them to have this new way of working, within their team. So every team meeting, every weekly or monthly reporting that they're doing internally with the teams, this is now the way forward. And, we have some teams that are already doing that, some subscribers that are quite active and quite open to the idea, others are a bit slower to follow. So I think there's just so much opportunity. And then for our Launchpad subscribers who are already, using and looking at the templates and the canvases and using that material that they're getting, every week they're getting something new in their inbox, then it's much easier for the experts when they go, okay, actually going live, we want to do it, but, Jessica, who is one of our experts, who's really, brilliant on that and can, give so many ideas and can quickly within 2 hours, put a whole plan together with a destination team, they're working that out. It's really easy for them to say, hey, why don't we get the expert team in more frequently? So rather than it being like one thing that, they're doing once a year, it really has to be like a monthly thing. And I mean, yeah, of course with us, but also, every organization will move into that space where you're not just confined to the 50 people that are in your organization. It's much easier to work with,
An extended team.
with external people and not just with agencies. Now we see that, there's often that disconnect between the organization and the agency, and you almost need a translator in between, and sometimes we're actually the translator translating what the destination is, but you really want somebody who can almost like plug into your team, who understands your destination, where you're coming from, how the budget works, how everything works, and then can give that quick input in 2 hours and then leave, and you have still all of the input because you were part of that process and developing the ideas.
One of the things that we have been really keen on is actually education. So I think it's definitely been an education for us, learning how to do remote design, even learning about design thinking as a way, a method of lending our expertise to a project. And we see the huge difference that it can make. But it's also something that we have to educate our clients on. And I think that's also another kind of interesting aspect to this. So we have developed a kind of process of doing that. And one of the things that we actually use is a template that IBM have used using Mural, which allows people to go in and to learn very quickly within an hour or two how to do remote design thinking. And so we actually facilitate these sessions for destinations that maybe think this is an interesting sort of skill or opportunity or a way to do things differently, and we can onboard their whole team on how to do remote design thinking using the onboarding template that we've found really useful, something that IBM shared. and we basically bring everybody to the room, and we walk them through all the different stages on the mural board, and they learn how to do that. So I think that's like a really kind of key thing to do first. The other thing is also looking at other tools. So alongside Mural, we also use Asana in a big way. Asana is, I would say it's almost the opposite end of the scale. So whilst Mural gives a huge space for ideation and creativity and collaboration on that, Mural is equally collaborative, but very streamlined, very, very structured, and it's all about productivity and managing major projects, very complex things, in a very seamless way. So we often find we do the ideation and everything in Mural, and then we bring it right down to a plan in Asana, or a project plan. And we also work with teams on sort of helping them with this as well. And that's, I think, something that we don't have today, but we will have by the end of the year, is an integration where people can also download and install Asana templates as well. So I guess by the end of November, we're going to have a launch pad which is fully fledged with Asana integration, Mural integration, and obviously then all the other things that we have on there as well.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we also have, what we already have is, sometimes it's just more interesting, or, it's easier for someone maybe to download something in Word, or some people also use Evernote, and they have like notes that they want to do in there. So already we have the opportunity not just to give a PDF, but actually give one file, or one canvas in 5 or 6 different formats, and again, like, that's really giving everyone the flexibility to work on those canvases, or on, I don't know, planning a social media takeover, or going live, or tackling data-driven marketing. I mean, anything you can imagine, that we have on our site, in the way that is easiest for you. Either print it as a big A1 canvas sheet and write on it, put sticky notes, hang it up in your office, or do it digitally. I don't know, have it in your Evernote and share it. Have it in Asana as like a list of, okay, here's our editorial planning, or I don't know. So there's so many different opportunities. Yeah. I think the only bad criticism that we had is that it's almost like too much.
I love that.
I don't really think that's a
I do love that
problem.
criticism, but we do get it a lot, surprisingly. Also with our events, which we'll come back to in just a moment. So I think one of the really exciting things to say, and this is probably a good point to say, is that we actually have Mariana, who's the founder of Mural, who will be speaking at DTD Global. I think that for me that's really exciting, because we approached Mural because we simply love what they do. There's absolutely not a commercial or sponsor focused relationship there. We really just use it all the time. We love it. We think it's brilliant. We think it's key to transforming people's teams. And we actually reached out to them and we said, hey, we're avid users of Mural, and we're sort of building it into everything we do. Is there an opportunity for you to sort of come over and speak? So Mariano will be at DTD Global. He'll be sharing the Mural story. And I feel almost like a fan, very excited to meet him, because we have a huge amount of respect for what he has created there along with his team.
Yeah, and I mean, there is already, we're, I think, in good hands, because there's IBM, they're always using it, and we know that they're leaders in transformation, and they really know their stuff. So, it's definitely like the right choice to go into that direction for us, and it will be very interesting. I'm also excited because actually at Global, we'll then also have the experts talking a little bit about, how they've developed the canvases, and sort of what work goes into that, and how these are being used. And by then we'll also have, I think, a couple of more videos maybe to share, just to show, because I think often it's so difficult to understand what it is. So it's often easier just to show, like, this is how it looks like when a board is filled. Yeah. It's exciting.
And just to maybe, before we conclude the stream, maybe a couple of ideas about how we are using this hybrid approach, where we're combining the physical and digital workshop, those expertise. So I think a good example is like a website redesign. Going into website redesign process, we're often asked quite a few times we've been asked to really look at this at a very, very first stage when destinations may be looking at their website and thinking, okay, what do we do now? What's the future of a destination website? A great example where we're doing a workshop where I will be there physically, I will ideate with them, share lots of ideas, also be inspirational for half a day, but then in the other half of the day, connecting 2 or 3 experts to the room and actually creating a giant workroom where we'll look at the sort of visitor journey and where the website sort of has its role and relevance along that journey, and at the same time nuancing the specialities and sort of skills that our experts can bring. So looking at what's the changes likely to happen with regards to data and technology, and on the other hand, where's content going to come into play? And we're going to work on one huge canvas where I will be physically present with the team, sat in front of some screens, and asking them, really critical questions about that visitor journey, and we'll really put that together. Likewise, I'll have my expert team working at the same time on the same canvas, putting their ideas together. And at the same time, I will invite all of the team to at least contribute some thoughts through sticky notes and things like that, which we'll also import into the board. So that's like one amazing example, which I think is, it's a great way to empower literally an entire organization to be part of a process. Something that would be normally physically impossible because it's just quite difficult, also in terms of time. A couple of other kind of examples. We often work with national tourist boards. With quite a few times we've been brought in to work with their sort of annual meeting where they bring together all of their marketing teams from around the world, and sort of doing that in a different way.
Yeah, and then I think every time we've also done a bit of a hybrid approach where we actually bring a lot of printed materials, so big sheets that are then filling with ideas, but it's also a great opportunity for them to be quite critical and maybe also look at some of the content that they've produced, some of the approaches that they have in digital, and maybe revisit that. Also working a lot with enabling small teams that are working, or small groups, to actually pitch their work back, and then at the same time we're also using we're actually bringing in experts then remotely who can also on the one hand side judge, I guess, the pitches and give some feedback on what they've seen and what the groups have developed, but at the same time also can give some input as well, because all of the canvases that we're working on printed, they're also digital, so it's a great way to also get different teams to collaborate and work with in a physical environment, but then also almost feedback to experts and get their input, because it's so easy to connect different people.
And finally, what the outcome of all of this is something that lives in a digital space. You can keep building on top of it, but it's also something that we really love printing these. So we actually work with a printer, a local printer, and we send those canvases. And it's something great that after a huge ideation process, we can get sort of big A0 or A1 sheets printed, which live in the office or amongst the marketing team, and they can always look back at that. So if they're working on a sort of 2-year project or something, they can really print out the different stages and keep that fresh in their mind, rather than sort of, as we said at the beginning, rip all the stickies down and then just leave it for somebody to write up a kind of set of minutes for their workshop. That's obviously completely not productive. So there's a few ideas about remote design and how hybrid remote design works. Any more to add before we wrap up today's stream?
I think just anybody can do it. I'm not a creative at heart, but I'm really good at using Mural and communicating and visualizing things. So this is something for everyone, for any team, in any teams in any destination, and everyone should do it because it's fun and it's productive and it's great.
And we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be ideating one big key challenge, and we'll actually be doing that live. So you can join us tomorrow. You can watch the stream live as we ideate and as we work in Mural. And I think this is a great chance to see the actual work taking place and how that workroom environment really looks like. I mean, you'll really be a fly on the wall seeing how we do that. And of course, as usual, we invite you to send your ideas and thoughts to us. We have been enjoying receiving those, and we will definitely incorporate some of your thoughts if you send them to us during the stream as well. So I think it just leaves me to say, make sure you come to DTD Global, where you will be able to meet Mariano, myself, Ramona, and all of the expert team, and talk to them about remote design. They've all got experiences of using it in different ways, so they'll really be able to share their opinions and thoughts on that. And of course, their expertise are pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, and it's probably important to say that on the 15th of September, our early bird ticket is running out, which is actually next week Friday. So, you know, if you want a really good deal, then get your tickets
€200
now.
off.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity.
€200 off. And I would definitely, I think for me, with Global this year, that we've made a slight shift, that we usually focus purely on digital marketing promotion. And this year we've done day one, which is all about that. And day two, we're focusing a lot more on productivity and transformation in the workplace. Because of course, you can't really be a good marketeer unless you've got the right tools to do that. And unless you've got the right workflow. So I think this year's event is going to be quite special in terms of the focus that we bring. That's why we're so excited to have Muriel and Mariano speaking. And you will definitely be able to learn a lot more about that. So save €200 by booking your tickets before the 15th of September, and you'll get to meet us all there. But for now, that leaves us to say we look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time, 3 p.m. CET, or 2 if you're in the UK. And we hope to see you at Global. Thanks a lot.
See you then.